Hey guys, my name is Beth Magnetic and I am at Mormon True Crime because no, you're not crazy. There is a lot of Mormon true crime and it's important that we talk about it and talk about why, because at the root of it, it's all the patriarchy. Today we're going to be doing Girl Talk with Jennie.
And I'm Jennie Gage of Life Take Two, where I share my harrowing escape from Mormon tradwife life and how I've rebuilt a happy, healthy, religion-free world on the other side. I love Girl Talk Live. And I don't know, Beth, I do a lot of stuff with a lot of people, and there's nobody that I will text at 2 a.m. except for you. I just want you to know you are the only person that at 2 a.m., and I don't text you, I direct message you because I don't want your phone to go ding in the middle of the night. If I have a thought and I'm like, I need to talk about this with somebody, it's always you. You're the only one. So,
Oh, thank you. Also, you can text me because my phone's on silent from like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. No sound comes through.
teenagers. I can't put my phone on silent. We have 7 kids. They're all.
Oh, I have my ex-husband's number set so that it will ring through no matter what. But that's it. Everybody else can wait till morning. Jennie, we need to talk about the thing that I cannot stop thinking about this entire week. And that's Luigi, the UHC situation. Because, oh my goodness, I've seen a lot of people that are like, how are you all celebrating that this happened? Unaliving is wrong. Yes, of course, unaliving is wrong. And can we talk about the fact that our government and society is set up in a way where people like the man who was unalived, Brian, was that his name? Roberts? Anyway, something like that. But
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
I've been watching.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. But he has a license to unalive. He literally has, with his pen and with paperwork, can legally let people suffer and let people lose their lives. And so Luigi took one life, and the CEO is responsible for thousands of lives, likely, going to the wayside, right? Because of policy, so that he can make a more profitable company. So where is this ethical balance between a license to unalive people and doing it the way that Luigi did it?
So I have to say, just as we dive into this topic here, that when I saw the news, like I always have the news on in the background when I'm working, writing, whatever. And I heard just like this breaking news on CNN the other day that the head of that healthcare company had been unalived in the streets of New York. And I immediately turned the sound up because it had an emotional response in me. Certainly, again, you never want anyone to be unalived, but it was almost just a symbol of anger and frustration. And it's like, oh, this has to be not just random. This has to be somebody who has like a backstory. There's got to be some reason behind this. And I think that the thing that was the most intriguing to me was then to see the ripple effect response. It wasn't necessarily the unaliving. It wasn't necessarily who the victim was or who the perpetrator was. It was, to me, the most intriguing thing was the ripple effect across society and what that means about us as people right now, what that means about our lives, what that means about classism, what that means about poverty, what that means about the divide between rich and poor, access to one of our most basic rights, which is our health, our bodies, being able to function, and just the fury that regular people have. Did I send you this guy, Joe DeVito songs here on TikTok?
I don't think so.
I meant to send it to you. It was like 2 a.m. I meant to send it to you. But he has this little acoustic version. So Joe DeVito songs, it's because the note,
yes,
you I defend who's,
yes.
And he talks about like the only people who have patience for patients are patients.
Yes.
And with the corruption in the medical industry. And I think that more than anything, what this has become to people, and I don't know if that's what we'll discover was the original cause, and you're my Mormon true crime person, which is why I'm so happy you're talking about this. What the average person has taken this to symbolize is fury and frustration over lack of access to healthcare, over corruption in pharmaceuticals, medical insurance, testing, diagnostics, doctors. And this guy, instead of being a bad guy, this perpetrator has become a little bit of a Robin Hood type of hero. And it's been really intriguing to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen him called Robin Hoodie, which I think is fantastic. But I also have seen, my immediate thing was like, this is like the French Revolution, right? We don't have royalty, but we have people who are basically like aristocrats here in the United States who have supreme power to make calls for grand numbers of people, right? And
These people into an aristocratic status. In
exactly.
America, some of our ultra wealthy people, they are aristocrats because of their power and influence over society, over policy, especially with lobbyists and people like that actually pulling the puppet strings. When Elon Musk got on the phone call with Trump after the election with, what's his name, the prime minister, president of the Ukraine, it's like, how does just having that much wealth give you access to then having conversations with world leaders where you are influential? Our millionaires and billionaires in America act in every way the way that aristocrats do in monarchies. Hard stop.
Right. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah. The fact that by and large, our society saw this and we were like, you know what? I'm taking this guy's side. Whoever he is, he was with me. Right. And oh no, I don't recognize that guy. Those are the options. I don't know who he is. I also, at the same time, I don't necessarily blame the person at McDonald's because, like, if I was in that situation and he was right in front of me, I'm like, what would I do? I don't know. And also, I'm sure that they were like, okay, reward money. Like, I'm somebody who makes probably minimum wage or just above it, working at McDonald's. This could make it so that I can pay my bills per year, right? And or go to school or do something to better my life. And so I'm not like looking at that person in any negative way for sure. And I also think about the fact that have you ever in your life, Jennie, seen society as a whole react like this to a situation?
No, but I'm almost 51. I'm pushing 51. So I always want to say that because I have seen a major cultural and economic, political shift in my lifetime that is almost unmatched. My boomer parents didn't see the shifts in society that I've seen in rapid pace because of electronics and access to, social media. We're in this rapid fire shift in our society. My boomer parents, greatest generation parents, certainly didn't see the shift in society that I've witnessed in my almost 51 years. So no, I don't think that I've ever seen anything like this where the perpetrator of unaliving was celebrated like that, where almost universally everybody's like all so pissed off at pharmaceutical companies and CEOs and billionaires and the whole entire thing. But in my lifetime, I never experienced such massive class division. When I was a kid growing up, I actually really looked up to like celebrities and wealthy people. Like even in my community, I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona. So there's a lot of wealthy people. Dick Van Dyke, if you remember Dick Van Dyke, he had this house up on the hill in Paradise Valley. And we'd be driving home from the mall or driving home from church or something. And you could see Dick Van Dyke's house up there on the hill. We surrounded by people who like got driven to school in Lincoln Town cars and people whose parents had yachts and things like that. I certainly didn't. I was never wealthy like that as a child growing up. But the upper class in America actually served to reinforce that American dream that I can achieve that. I can attain that. If I go home today as a little sixth grader and do my homework and make sure that I'm learning everything that I can, then, well, actually, that's not true because for me, I was a girl. If I'm really pretty and also do my homework, then I can marry a rich guy and I can live in a house like that on top of the hill in Scottsdale. Wealth was attainable. There were avenues and pathways for even like somebody who wasn't born into a rich family to be able to live out that American dream. But we have such disparity between the classes now that there is nothing. They're no longer, wealthy people are no longer make us think I can do that. There's no like rags to riches, like Ellis Island, give me you're tired, you're poor. And then you come to America and you start a homestead and a farm. And if you're diligent and you work hard, then you can have the American dream. I look at the rich people now and it's like, there's no fucking way that I can possibly ever attain that. And not only that, they are such resource hoarders and they have so much wealth and power and they're impacting society so much that they are keeping the rest of us in virtual slavery, where I'm working 7 days a week just to pay my rent on a tiny little apartment that I can never own. And the patriarchy, the stratification, status, resource hoarding is at a point in American culture where it no longer serves to inspire anybody and we're just pissed. And that was the beginning of the French Revolution. That was the beginning of the Bolshevik Revolution. That's the beginning of every revolution. I study a lot of economics. And once we get into that decadence and disparity and the middle class starts to disappear, people like Joe Devote songs are writing little ballads to the guy who unalives the United Healthcare worker, president, whatever, CEO in the state. And I feel like that's where we're at. What are your thoughts on?
I was talking with my boyfriend about this, and he said something really interesting. He said it's only a class war when the lower class hurts the upper class, because the upper class can have policies that they can own insurance companies. They can do all of these things and hurt us all day, every single day. But as soon as we hurt them, it's a class war. I was like, oh my goodness.
It's never a class war when people are colonizing. It wasn't a class war when my European ancestors came over here in the 1600s, unalived all of the indigenous populations, enslaved women, brought over indentured servants, were generally terrible, horrible people, and then pretty soon had African slaves running their massive plantations throughout Virginia and the Carolinas. That wasn't a class war. My wealthy, rich, privileged white ancestors were actually founding fathers. They were the noble. I'm descended. George Washington's mom was my great-great-great-great-great-grandma. They're the heroes in the story. It's never the class war when it's the wealthy that are harming the people down below. It's so what Stephen's saying is it's only a class war when the average Joe pushes back. It's back.
Isn't that interesting? That one stuck with me. One of the other things that's really stood out to me in this is how quickly we had such a divided nation. How quickly did like the bulk of the nation come together? And yes, this is how we feel. We united on something. Left and right united on this. And so it made me think about in elections. So one of my really good friends, what she did was she asks Chat. She's the kind of person who has a million questions about everything. So she asks ChatGPT 1,000 questions and helps to clarify and process why she might feel a certain way about something. And so she was talking to it about elections and politics. And ChatGPT made this point that if you look at the politics on the left and the politics on the right, during election season, they only focus on the topics that we're divided on. Because if they were to focus on things that we're united on, like our healthcare system is trash, then all of a sudden, they wouldn't be able to divide us anymore. And so it's like, what are these other topics that our entire country would come together on? Just boom. And I think that this incident has ignited something where it's like, oh, wait, everybody's on the same page with something. And what if we could work on this one thing?
I think that we have more power than we realize we have. Like, how do we work on it? We vote with our pocketbooks, vote with our behaviors, stop supporting the wealthy. I've been boycotting Amazon for almost 3 years now, I only order from Amazon in case of emergency. Like I have some medical supplies and different things that I have to get from Amazon. I can't get from anywhere else. But my Christmas shopping, and I don't celebrate Christmas. I'm an atheist. I acknowledge the Germanic midwinter or Yule. And we buy a couple of gifts for our kids, and they're all handmade. I purchase within walking distance. That's one of my rules. Literally, you've been to the market with me. I walk to the market. I have some craftspeople that we've ordered jewelry and different gifts from. I have stepped out of capitalism as much as I absolutely possibly can. I don't support millionaires. I didn't buy Hannah Neeleman's Willa sourdough. I texted a grandma that I knew that makes sourdough and asked her to divide her start for me. And there you go. We have so much power in our pocketbooks. I do not purchase clothing except from an organic company, Packed Organics. 100% of all of my clothing is Packed Organics. I shouldn't say 100% because I have a few pieces that are thrifted or are inherited from my grandma. I do not ever order any fashion from Amazon. Fast fashion is destroying our planet. I had a whole entire platform for 12 years as a green living activist where I taught opposing fast fashion. We actually have the power to cut the billionaires and the millionaires off with our wallets. And we don't because we're greedy.
Right.
We don't want this. We also don't because I think we all have depression. And so we have to keep going to Target to like numb out.
Yes.
All these dopamine addicts.
So I also have, so I got some of our stuff for Christmas this year from Amazon, but I went other places first. So I went to like Etsy, found every gift that I possibly could on Etsy from small individual business owners who are making or doing that thing themselves, right? Then I was like, okay, so the stuff that I have to get that's, more mainstream. I went to Target next because of where their donation dollars go. I went to Target next, and then I went to Amazon for the last things where I couldn't find them. But I was like, okay, so money first is going to go to a platform where it's going to serve the best way that I can. But I also am married. I think your point about the decadent and what was the other word you used? Decadent and disparity, maybe something like that.
Yeah. And then the disparity. Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I know that like our ex-husbands are not like billionaires or anything like that, but look at the difference between our ex-husbands and us. We instantly, I joke about this, but it's not a joke. I joke that the reason that I became progressive is because I lost my white male privilege. I got divorced and I lost my white male privilege.
Yeah. I just will write and flash in front of my eyes in that one little sentence. Oh my God.
Isn't that what happened? You had white male privilege. You got divorced. You lost white male privilege.
And now I'm this liberal reformist. I'm helping with a homeless home building company here in Tucson. I help with a couple of single moms around town. Like now my whole entire life, my whole platform, everything that I do as a domestic violence advocate and a women's rights activist is to try to minimize that disparity between the rich, white, privileged boys at the top and people like me. But, oh, Beth, oh my gosh. Because I was scrolling through my Facebook during the election, trying to find 7-8 years ago when I was posting about Trump all the time because I was Mormon. And I was like, Donald Trump, like he's going to save everything, blah, blah, blah. And it was Mitt Romney before him. And it was always like the Republican boys. And my whole life was very much being a shield maiden or a fasci femme for white supremacist Mormonism. Like that was my entire identity. And scrolling through, once I hit that spot in my Facebook where I was back like years ago when I was still the rich white Mormon girl, I was a hateful, horrible person. I believe that if you worked harder, you should be a millionaire. I'm better than you. I'm working harder than you. I'm out there from sunrise to sunset. It's not privilege. Like I didn't inherit wealth. We worked for this. we are entitled to this. And I looked down on anybody who, like the people outside of my country club neighborhood. I lived in Los Angeles up there in $1 million houses. And the people who lived in the little houses around there, like the Red Mountain and Apache Junction, the trailers and stuff, there was something quintessentially flawed about them as human beings, that they didn't have the work ethic that me and my husband had. But in reality, I didn't own any of the money. It was all his. My name wasn't on a single bank account. My name wasn't on the businesses. I was just his little assistant. When our marriage ended, within 3 days, the bank account was closed down. The money was hidden. I had zero, nothing. For my followers, I was sleeping in my car. I had this little GoFund that I would text to my friends. Like, I need gas and food for the kids. Can you please donate to my GoFund? I had people that would just like give me money so that I could buy gas and food. And I was homeless for 3 months. And that homelessness all of a sudden woke me up in ways that I could have gone my whole entire life in that little rich Mormon privileged bubble where the patriarchy was benefiting me like it was benefiting you. And then I wouldn't be this crazy person right here today at like 10 o'clock in the morning on a TikTok live talking about classism. Oh my God. It's like Buddha when he went outside of the, what do they call it? The magic city. What is it called? I don't know. The city of the sun, the palace of the sun. When goes outside of the city gates for the first time and he sees like bodies laying in the gutter and he sees the old woman. He'd never seen anybody old before. And he sees like all of the crippled and the downtrodden. And so he Buddha and is all like tuned into other people's emotions, and fairness and classism becomes his whole entire obsession in life.
Yes.
Left that golden palace and our lives became very difficult. I think that it's a unique perspective when you've come from privilege to hitting rock bottom. Because if you and I had been raised our whole lives in poverty, we wouldn't understand truly the privilege behind those lifestyles. But having lived it and then standing in line to get food stamps and like
When even Christians, right? So I know that a lot of Christians be like, oh no, this isn't true, you guys. Like, that's because politically they're right. And so, but the reality is that their very own scriptures start with a story about people who were in a very protected bubble who then woke up and realized something was wrong. And then they left that bubble and things got a lot harder. So their very own scriptures start with this allegory of, hey, you were born into this system. You're born into this world where everything is provided. Everything is taken care of you. As long as you don't eat that fruit of the truth of good and evil, the knowledge of good and evil, right? And so what did we do, Jennie? Oh, we have learned what good and evil is, and we were cast out of the garden.
And now that we're out here in the lone and dreary world,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand the hateful discrimination and the resource hoarding of being privileged, like we can't just sit and watch it happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that we should say in the middle here, kind of what our religious affiliation is. I was Mormon for 44 years, and then I was Christian for 4.5 years, deconstructed that, broke up with Jesus about a year ago. So I've only been religion free for, I guess it was like a year and a half is how long I've been anti-religious. So I am atheist, anti-theist, which means I'm opposed to religion. I think that it's harmful to society. And my thoughts on Jesus, I do believe that there is some historical evidence for the rabbinical Yeshua in ancient Palestine, like Shakespeare, like a lot of his writings and works seem to have all come from like one person. I do think that maybe he lived. I absolutely do not believe that he was anything magical and Lord and Savior, anything like that. And I say in some of my Substacks and some of my videos that I'm more in love with Jesus as an economist, an instrument of social change, and a rebel than I ever was when Jesus was my Lord and Savior in Mormonism and Christianity. Jesus is an economist. He talks all the time about disparity. He talks all the time about decadence and privilege and turning away from seeking after wealth, humanism, looking to other people for connection, tribalism. He really wasn't a religious activist at all. He was an economist.
Anti-religion.
He's an anarchist, anti-religious. Jim Palmer does some articles on Jesus was atheist, and I agree. I think that Jesus was atheist. I think that there are some biblical passages that were added to Christian mythology later that kind of turned it into a religion, which over 2,000 years has definitely taken hold. But I think he was an atheist.
I have lots and lots of theories on Jesus. I like Jesus, actually. I think Jesus makes amazing points. I don't think that Christians are Christian. I think Christians are Paulians. I think they subscribe to the Apostle Paul 1,000 times more than they subscribe to the teachings of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ was anti-religion, zero question. He called it out. He flipped tables. He was so anti-religion. He wanted people to spiritually align and find God within themselves. And he was like, hey, I've got God in me, and you can have God in you, right? And so God is this, love. It's this faith and belief in yourself, and that good things can happen for you. I believe in that. And I believe that if you read, the red letters, that's what that Jesus character talked about. Jesus is not what Christians make him out to be at all. I think they added some of the magical things. I don't believe in a resurrection. I don't believe in a virgin birth. I'm open to some sort of a universal force of some sort, but I don't believe in a higher power. I believe in maybe something, a parallel power that we're able to emotionally connect with, that helps me to feel more connected to people around me. But that could just be psychology. I grew up Mormon, was Mormon when I was 26. I read the CES letter after my therapist had me read a book called Toxic Parents, where it said the line, an abuser will control their victim down to the underwear that they allow them to wear. And that's where I was like, what? So the church was a person, they'd be abusive. That started to just thing after thing after thing unravel Mormonism for me. And so today, I refer to myself as an atheist, agnostic, somewhere in that range. Do I live my life trying to connect with said parallel power that I mentioned? No. Do I believe that it's possible that it's there? Sure. That's me spiritually.
Parallel power. I've never heard that before. I really like that.
Came from my head.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that so much. Parallel power. I'm writing that down on my little notepad here. I have a YouTube subscriber who wrote this beautiful comment one day about how that what she believes is that Earth is the life force is the God, and we are all individual cells of that pulsating organism. And the way that she put it, I screenshotted her comment. It was so beautiful. Certainly the fact that we're alive, the fact that I am a cordless, wireless electrical system with a heart and all of this circuitry that's beating right now, and I never have to be plugged in like the rest of my electronic devices, and I'm capable of growing and then reproducing. It's miraculous. There is something to the life force that I certainly have reverence for, and just awe. I'm in awe of the fact that I have 4 little people that grew in my little uterus, and they're all teenagers and young adults, and they're wild and feisty, and I have a grandbaby. That is what I reverence, and I don't have to label it or understand what it is. And I do believe in the interconnectedness of all life. I am breathing air from some of the trees outside, and I am full of water and food and things that are all these interconnected bits and molecules. And I have such deep reverence for that. What I don't believe in at all is some guy in the sky out there who made it all, and poof, here we are. I absolutely do not believe in that. And I would say that I can't express my belief now that I'm no longer Christian, ex-Christian, ex-Mormon, ex-everything, ex-theist in general. I can't express it without verbalizing negatives. I don't believe in anything out there.
I went out with an Israeli man last year, and so he was Jewish, and he was telling me about his take on God. And it was that God is when something speaks to your soul, but you can't actually speak with it. And so it's when you have this moment where, like with nature or with an animal or with a beautiful experience, where it speaks to your soul, but not in words. And I was like, that is beautiful. That is a version of God I can get behind. So
I think the big definer for me too is I don't believe in a higher intelligence. I believe that we are the highest intelligence, that first little bubble of life that they've called Luca, scientists have named that first little single cell pod on Earth that poof came to life. They've nicknamed him Luca. That stands for something. I think that's as high as it is. And that as we evolve, whatever exists here on Earth, we are the highest form of life. I don't believe in something out there that has more intelligence, more intellect, more know-how than us. I think that we are creating it as we go along.
that. So yeah, I consider myself an atheist, but I think that there's something beautiful that connects us with the universe, and perhaps there is some force that can help us navigate life, because humanity is hard.
It is. And I think that when we turn to one another, when we turn to the earth, and when we all work communally, tribally, with love and cooperative endeavors, that's how we get through it. It's not stratification. It's not pushing a god and priesthood people and others up. I think that we get through it better based on
No hierarchy. It's everybody shoulder by shoulder.
hierarchy instead of the vertical, the horizontal. And that's leading back to what we started with, the unaliving of the CEO of the medical company. I think that we're all tired of that vertical. We are getting rid of the people at the top hoarding the resources and being so unattainable that we know that they're just exploiting us and taking our labor, taking our profit, and we can never catch up. And that's leading to a lot of anger. So,
yep. I work way harder than I did when I was making six figures, but I lack the male privilege now. And so that is the white male privilege from being married to a wealthy white man. And so the thought process that, people just need to work harder, it's not true. Because a lot of the people who are struggling are working way harder than other people.
Yeah, the working class is harder than those at the top. We have to, because we don't make as. So
it's true.
Okay, our topic. Anything else you want to say on this topic?
No, I'm good.
So over on my YouTube channel, I did a video yesterday where I talked about when I was dating after my marriage of 24 years crumbled to the ground. And for those who don't typically follow me, I spent 24 years with a mentally ill man who abused me. I dealt with daily fear and was trauma bonded, was deeply harmed, both physically, emotionally, financially, in every way possible. He threatened my life multiple times throughout our marriage and towards the end. And so when that marriage ended, I had a trauma and abuse therapist who had worked with me through the end of the marriage, and then it ended. And Beth, when I started dating, my therapist, I think, couldn't sleep at night because after being raised in an abusive home, spending 24 years in domestic violence, even though I got free of Jake, guess what type of guy I started to date?
Guys like Jay again?
Yeah, they were exciting.
Uh-huh.
I just found nicer versions of Jake. And so, every guy that I dated, now looking back, it's they were all narcissists. And one guy actually stalked me and still texted me just a couple months ago. So I ended up with some real doozies, and my therapist was constantly freaked out. So one day we're having a session and he goes, "So I have a rule for you. that I want you to implement now as you start to date. By about the third or fourth date, when you start to get serious with someone, or you think that you might want to, this might be a potential somebody that you want to spend more time with, right? Not just a first date, not just this guy's fun, but I could see us clicking. He says, when you get to that point, you cannot go to the next date unless you've talked to the exes. If they've been married, just, hey, I'd love to connect with your ex-wife for a minute. They were dating before you, the last 3 girlfriends. He's like, I don't care if you Facebook stalk them to find them or Instagram or whatever, but you're not moving forward in any relationships until you talk to the exes. And I implemented this rule and I dated a lot. So there was, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 guys that I kind of got to like a 4th or 5th date. And I started asking to talk to the exes. So like, hey, Sean, how can I connect with your ex-wife? I'd just like to meet her. And I'd like to talk to her. I had one guy who freaked out on me. He was a private high school principal from Ahwatukee. And after I had met his kids, I said, I'd love to talk to your ex-wife and the last couple of girls that you dated. It's just kind of a rule that I have. And he freaked. I mean, like, my wife is going to lie about me. She's going to tell you that I'm a psychopath. She's going to tell you that I'm still stalking her. Oh, you can never talk to my ex-wife. He's like, in fact, so then I asked, like, well, what if we were to continue dating and like our lives in the future blended at all? Then what would that look like? Would I not have a relationship with her? She lives 2 miles away from you. Like, what would that look like? And he's like, no, you could never talk to her. Like, I would have to keep you apart. He ended up being a stalker and a psychopath and was just insane. He was crazy. I did a whole string of YouTube videos on him back when I had my divorce care podcast because he was terrifying. I almost got an order of protection, but then I just blocked and ghosted and never saw him again. So I did a video yesterday about talk to the exes. And a lot of people are like, hey, yeah, that's a really great idea. Jake's ex-wife has never been alone with me. We have never had a conversation. She does not know that he was an abuser. She doesn't know any of his past. I could, in one fell swoop with everything on my phone, utterly change what she thinks about the man that she is married to. I never knew Jake. I knew nothing about his past. I didn't talk to an ex-girlfriend, an ex anything. Had I talked to his ex-girlfriend when I was a 20-year-old girl, she would have alerted me to behaviors and things that I would have needed to have known about. So I post this video. A lot of people are like, this sounds like a great idea. You should totally do this. We need to normalize talking to the exes. But I've had a few people who are like, you're just going to get lied to. They're going to have an axe to grind. Like, I would never want anyone to talk to my ex because they're going to tell that person, nobody will date me because my ex is going to lie about me. Mm-hmm. And I had a person who then found me on Facebook so that she could send me this huge long DM and tell me that I'm crazy and like, you should never, ever talk to the exes. That's wild. So,
but here's the thing. So I didn't have an abusive marriage. And I actually, when my ex-husband started dating his girlfriend last year, which that's been a whole can of worms of its own since then. But I was like, dude, I'm ready to be friends with her. Like, here's a Christmas present for her from me. And I was ready to like have a super healthy relationship with her. Now I'm 1,000% confident that she is dating at least 2 men right now. Let's say that. But my ex-husband will figure it out one day anyway, but she won't have anything to do with me. She wouldn't accept the Christmas present. She's never like wanted to meet and talk to me. I'm like, okay, you're supposedly talking about wanting to build a life with my ex-husband, which means I'm the mother of the children that you'd be raising. You should probably be willing to meet me. And I actually would not have bad things to say about my ex. You know why? Because he wasn't a dick. He had stuff that was obnoxious. We were not compatible. There are certain lessons he certainly had to learn to be a better husband. And I had 1,000 lessons I learned in that relationship too. But no, I don't have an axe to grind against my ex-husband. I have an axe to grind against the guy I dated right after that divorce, who forced his way into my life, forced his way into my home, forced his way into my kids' lives. My kids will not even say his name. My daughter refers to him as he who must not be named. She absolutely hates him. Ruined through my life down the trash. And it's taken me over a year to start to dig out. It's been a year, 2 years now. And so it's been a horrible experience because of that. So yes, I have an axe to grind against an ex who was a horrible, horrible partner. I do not have an axe to grind against a partner who we just weren't compatible.
I want somebody from Shark Tank to call me, because I have always said when I started dating that I wish that like Tinder and Bumble and Match.com and all of that stuff, I wish that you could leave a review. I wish that like Yelp or like great schools, Amazon, I don't buy a toothbrush from Amazon unless I've read like 50 reviews on a $10 organic toothbrush. We don't make any decisions in our life without having informed consent, without having a lot of disclosure behind those decisions that we're making. And I think there should be like a Yelp for dating where I can leave a review and say, hey, yeah, this guy, here's the receipts. This guy stalked me. Here's all of the 1,000,000 text messages, because I think that we need that. The fact of the matter is, our industrialized modern society where we're all disconnected from tribes, we have a really hard time getting to know who people actually are. 100 years ago, when my great-grandparents were born at the end of the 1800s, like 1898, 1903, 1907, at the turn of the century, my great-grandparents dated like the farmer down the street, somebody that went to church with him. Obviously, there was no online and people weren't as mobile. So everybody knew that person. Like your dad had already farmed with him, or you'd gone to school with them. Kevin's parents grew up like in the same little teeny farm community in Idaho. And they knew everything about each other. Everybody knew his family's reputation. They knew everything that he did. You knew the ex-girlfriends because you went to school with the ex-girlfriend. So we had a high level of knowledge about other humans within our community because we lived around them. And this is a problem that we have in modern society, where I'm meeting a total stranger online, or like Kevin, I met him at the gas station, Costco gas. I knew nothing about him. He was just this cold person to me that I was meeting for the very first time. We didn't have any friends in common. So there was no way for me to get to know him outside of what he told me. And of course, when you're dating someone, they're going to tell you all the best stuff. My ex-husband, Jake, who's a mentally ill, violent abuser with an incredible past of abuse and predatory behavior, just that I know of, just the things that I had evidence and discovered for myself, and probably stuff that I will never know. The only thing that his wife had to go on was what he told her. Hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm all about. And she should have talked to me. She should have talked to his friend. So Beth, when Kevin and I started to feel like, oh my God, Kevin's my person, which with Kevin, honestly, was pretty quick. And I was dating 6 other guys when I met Kevin. Within 4 days after meeting Kevin, I was texting everyone and canceling all my other engagements with these other people moving forward. Yeah, I've met somebody. So I knew it pretty quickly. But within a couple of weeks, when like all I wanted to do was spend time with Kevin, I asked him, I said, I need the phone number of the girl that you were dating before me, and I need to talk to Amy. I need to make sure that you are not a psychopath. Wow. Crazy history. He gave me the phone number of the ex-girlfriend, and I called her literally like right then. I was laying out by the pool at my condo. Kev was sitting right there, and it's like, hi, I didn't even give him time to contact her. It's like, hey, I'm dating Kevin and just wanted to talk to you about a review. What do you think? Should I be dating him? And she's like, I'm still in love with him. He was amazing. It just didn't work out. Blah, blah, blah. He's so kind. He's so sweet. Like she went off on how amazing he was. We actually became friends. Like came over. We went to dinner together and stuff. Like she came over a couple times. We kept in touch for a while until I moved to Tucson. Kev's ex-wife was not happy about the end of their marriage. she did have like some ex-wife anger, but yeah, she's like, oh, I didn't want our marriage and I'm pissed that it ended. He was amazing. He's so sweet. He's so kind. He has such a servant heart. Like the things that the ex-wife said to me about Kevin were mad that I was read through as a human. And like, okay, well, did he do this? Has he ever laid a hand on you? Was he ever predatory? Were there criminal things ever that I should know about? And I also background checked everyone before the first date. So I wouldn't go on a first real life date with anybody until I had background checked, always 100% of the time. So the controversy is people are going to tell you horrible things about people and they're going to lie if you have some crazy ex. But I think that we as humans need to normalize talking to the exes because I think that we're capable of weeding through those things. For some of the ex-girlfriends that were like, oh, he was such a jerk to me. In what way was he a jerk to you? Was it something that threatened your safety? Was there infidelity? Was there deception? Was he acting in a criminal way? Was he a horrible human being? Or did you guys just get in a normal human fight and it ended? I think that we're capable of weeding through that. And I stand by my therapist's teachings that talk to the exes. I think you have to talk to the exes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's really interesting. I haven't talked to my boyfriend's ex-wife yet. I'm sure it will happen at some point, but that's a really interesting point. I also didn't have like a pattern of dating unhealthy men for that period of time. It was like, if I went out on a date or two with somebody and I'm avoidant. And so if I went out with somebody and I was like, oh, there's an ounce of a red flag, I'm out. That's really interesting. But yeah,
malignant narcissists, though, you don't see the red flags. Looking back on when I met Jake when I was 19, there was not a single red flag. People ask me all the time, what were the red flags?
Malignant narcissists bounce, though, for me, because I have a severely disabled son. So I don't feed their image. And so I would say that the guy right after my divorce definitely was a narcissist. I don't know if I'd call him malignant or not, but like he definitely was. And I'm just like so glad that I got away from him before my son ended up having mental health issues because like this man would break and shatter devices when he was mad at them. And I'm like, what would he have done to my baby?
Wait, are you kidding me? Wow. Jake was Prince Charming and he was so sweet and he was so kind. And he thought I was the most beautiful thing in the world. And he swept me off my feet. We got married really quickly. And every girl in our Mormon single adult ward, we were in the same single adult ward. We hadn't known each other. We were set up on a blind date. Every girl was like crying when he got engaged and got taken off the market because he seemed so amazing. I didn't have any red flags with Jake in the beginning because he was meticulous about making sure that that image that he projected was perfect. And there are so many people out there that are putting forth that perfect image that have the capacity to harm you deeply.
So maybe that's my thing is that if I see somebody who like looks absolutely perfect, I'm like, that's a red flag.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's amazing. We were having a conversation on our ex-Mormon divorcees, which you and I run together, about narcissism, because somebody posted that we talk too much about narcissistic abuse and we need to like stop because it's an actual classification. And if it's not diagnosed narcissism, we shouldn't talk about it. I disagree with that 100 million%. If I had had Dr. Ramani's book and her podcasts and all of her YouTubes and everything that she puts out, and my personal trauma and abuse therapists who have educated me on narcissistic abuse and the dark triads and those cluster B personalities to the point that I'm considering going and getting becoming a licensed therapist because I have so much.
I was thinking about the same thing yesterday, Jennie.
I have so much interest and so much working knowledge that, yeah, like I should probably go into therapy. I'm considering it. I've been looking at some different avenues to do that. We'll see what happens. just that education into the red flags, narcissistic abuse. Dr. Romney talks about the Prince Charming effect. And if somebody's too perfect, now that I have that education, I do feel like I am very much like narcissist proof. But I don't think that feeling narcissist proof trumps getting to know what other people say about that person that you're potentially going to spend time with and possibly even spend your life with. Because yes, I think that I am narcissist proof now. My friends, I don't think something happened to me and Kevin. I don't think that I could ever date or get mixed up with one of those narcissists. Again, I've had too much therapy, but that wouldn't, my feeling of, I understand narcissism. I know the red flags and they're going to be repelled by me anyway. That shouldn't put me in a place where I'm so comfortable in my knowledge that I don't talk to mom, dad, ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, people that work with that person that I'm going to spend time with. I think that we need to, bless you.
That's really interesting. And I think that, so at what point was it that you talked to exes?
About 2 years, about 1 year after my divorce. Yeah, about a year after my divorce, my therapist came up with that rule.
Oh, I mean, like at what point in like moving forward with the relationship?
When I felt like, so it was more like if I thought I might want to spend the weekend with that person, when I felt like I was starting to consider that person a possible partner. Like there were guys that I never got to that point. I dated a lot. I went on over 100 dates before I met Kevin. So I dated a ton. It was fun to be single. It was really healing for my self-esteem. I shouldn't have, in hindsight, like I maybe shouldn't have dated as much, but it's what I did. So there were guys that like, oh, I know that we're always just going to like have fun going to the farmer's market together. I had a hiking buddy. I had people that like, I know that this is not my person at all. I'm not interested in anything more serious or in just being with this person. It was when I was interested in that person and I thought I could see myself just wanting to be with this person. And then we were doing things like spending a weekend together, going out of town together, potentially meeting my kids. That's when I talked to the ex-wife, the ex-girlfriends, and then friends, family, people like that too. We're also included in that. So I reached out to a couple of people from Kevin's church as soon as I was like, I don't want to date anybody else except for you. And like, right. The night at my house a lot. And I need to get to know this person's background and not just what I'm seeing. So I reached out to, I just went through his Facebook friends list and like DM'd a couple of his buddies from Gilbert. And I was like, I just saw that you're friends with Kev and that you interact with his page a lot. Like, what would you tell me about him? Would you date him? Would you want one of your daughters or like your sister to date Kev? And I really listened to what that feedback was. So yeah, certainly not on the first date. I would always background check before the first date, but not until I pictured myself possibly partnering with that person.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. I haven't talked to my boyfriend's ex-wife at this point, and my ex-husband's girlfriend has not talked to me at this point, but I do think that it would be so much better. And then having everybody so that you can communicate and be on the same page about things. My goodness. Like, that would be so lovely. When that happens, I will let you know how that goes, Jennie.
We don't exactly have everybody on the same page because like Jake is a danger to me. So we are very hands off. We had orders of protection for the first 3 years after our marriage. And then we had a mediator that we had to communicate through, and we really don't communicate. So he's really good at like organizing schedules and things like that. Like he's very cohesive with this scheduling, but no, it's unfortunate that I'm not able to have that close connected relationship. And we do not have the ideal ex relationships, but I did have access to them, and my ex-husband's wife certainly has my phone number and has access to me and could reach out to me at any time and ask.
Yeah. Even the fact that you're able to just have a conversation is lovely.
How did I do the background check before the first date? So I have a background check app. Is it background? what is it called? It has background check in the name. I don't know. It's in my link tree, and I've used them for years. And I would just tell people, hey, before our first date, I have to background check you. So I'm going to use your address, birth date, full name, etc. Because I do not meet anybody in real life and share any type of personal information until I've background checked you. And I never had anybody have a problem with that. So I always disclosed to people that I was background checking, always. And then I'd also check their Facebooks. I had a couple of guys that I was dating that were still married. One of them accidentally said he was Mormon. We were on a Zoom call together one day, and I heard a FaceTime. And I heard a female voice in the background, and he goes, "Oh, my wife." And I was like, "Wait, what?" He had never. And then he just hung up. And like later that night, he's like, "Yeah, no, like we're divorced, but I mean, not really, like nothing's finalized yet." Like he was just backpedaling. He is still married today, 6 years later. He was fully married. Me and Jake were married. We were not separated. We were not divorcing. We were married when he was dating other women, like throughout our whole entire marriage. So they're like, I background checked. I checked all their socials, make sure that they weren't married. Like I did a lot of research before I ever went on a date with him.
Wow. That's
What
crazy,
do other
Jennie.
people?
What's that?
What do other people do?
I
Like,
just
do
went
you
on.
guys background check? Do you guys talk to exes? If you're out there in the dating world, how do you get to know the person that you're disclosing all kinds of private information to?
Uh-huh. That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I went out on first dates with 20 people, and Steve was in that mix. So I don't know. I didn't end up like dating a million people or anything in that process. So I probably would have developed better systems if it had gone much longer.
I think
So
we need those systems now. I don't know. It's a wild world. So, all right. Anything else that we want to cover today?
I don't think so, but this was fun.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying the background check is a great idea. I know that I'm scarred because I was married to a criminal, and I wish that I had background checked him before we got together. But I don't think that you have to be scarred to be smart. And my favorite quote is, "Every woman is one man away from destroying her life." And that is statistically true. The leading cause of unaliving for pregnant women is their intimate partners. 1 in 3 women will be the victims of domestic violence. Men can be very harmful. They can be amazing. We can have incredible relationships where we're never harmed. But I just think it's interesting that in so many other aspects of our lives, like again, I don't buy a toothbrush on Amazon without reading the reviews and doing my due diligence. I check, what's the best doctor and what are the best schools. We're very careful about making decisions about everything except for love. And our romantic partnerships have more impact in our lives than almost anything else out there. So why aren't we background checking and talking to exes and getting to know and dig deeper, and then understanding our attachment styles and those abuse red flags, and making a little bit more informed judgment about the people that we date? Don't you think it's a good idea?
Oh, I definitely think it's a good idea. I think I would. One of my things is, Jennie, that I've talked with my boyfriend about this. I don't know if or when I would ever plan on living with someone again. If I was going to that point, I think it would be very different for me. But I'm like, you stay in your place, I'll stay in mine, and then we'll see each other. And so I'm a big fan of that setup for me. But living with someone again, I don't know. I would definitely have 1,000
Criteria.
before I got there, for sure. Oh, but I think that's a great point. I've never considered it.
It's interesting. I just think we have so much time. Okay, you have to hop off and go do your thing. I have a big podcast that I'm doing in just a little bit, but you guys all hang on for like 10 more minutes. If you're not already following Beth Magnetic over at Mormon True Crime, hop over to her YouTube and sub over there because you're dropping more stuff to your YouTube now and doing some podcasts and different things over there. And of course, Beth is here on TikTok. So give her a follow on TikTok. Your stuff just chills me. Like, I'm obsessed with Mormon True Crime.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I am recording a Ted Bundy series with our friend Joe Rollins right now. And so we're going to be doing that. I also am planning to do the case that I've told you about, Olivia Curtis Coombs, who was a pioneer woman. And it really highlights all of the issues with historic Mormonism in this one case. So,
oh, it's so fascinating.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for having me, Jennie. And I'll see you next week.
You're amazing.